In this lesson, we will talk about different data types and give more information about what are the variables in the C# language. Also, you will see a good practice that you can do in your programs. C# is a strongly typed language, which means that we must set a type to our variable that will represent the value that we will store in this variable, and we can store in this variable. The types are called data types because they store data inside itself. The information stored in a type can include the storage space that the variable of the type requires, the maximum and minimum values that can have, and so on. Those data types are mainly separated into three types: val data types, pointer data types, and reference data types. As part of the value data types, we have the predefined data types with some examples as integer, float, boolean, and here also the decimal, double, and so on. As user-defined data types, we have enumerations in structure. About reference data types and predefined data types, objects and strings, and as user-defined data types, interfaces and classes. We will focus on the value data types and the predefined data types, also and the string type, which is a reference data type. The difference between the value and the reference types is that of the way of storing data. There are stack and heap memory in C#, and the value data type is a data type that stores its content inside the stack, while the reference type in the heap. More details and information you will learn with the time. For now, it's not necessary to know about them that much. You should know that they're existing in the language, and they are places where is storing the data of the variables that you declare. About the other types, and let's say the objects, enumeration, the structure, interfaces, and classes, again, you will learn them with the time. For now, we will be talking about the predefined data types as part of the value data types and the string, how I said in a while. So now I will show you a good practice that you can do on your next programs if you want. It is not necessary, but like I said, it's a good practice and you will do that sooner or later. So let's continue with the practice, and then I will show you the different data types and tell you more information about each one of them. And now I will show you different types of the C# language and tell you more about each one of them. So let's start with the byte, which is 8-bit unsigned integer and has range that is from 0 to 255. The compiler will give an error if the value that you set to a variable that you declared goes outside of the permitted range. If you're using by, then your value shouldn't be more than 255 or less than 0 to not have errors. Then we have the S byte, which is 8-bit signed integer and has range which starts from -128 to 127. Then we have the short type, which is 16-bit signed integer and has a bigger range, like you see. Then the U short is 16-bit unsigned integer and has range from 0 to 65,535. We got the int, which is 32-bit signed integer and has really big range. About the uint, it is again 32-bit unsigned integer and has a range which starts from 0 and it is from that, and it is to that big number. And the suffix, the value of unsigned type must be suffixed by, in this case, this letter. When you set the value of your variable, you should put the corresponding suffix to that type at the end after your value to work and not have errors. About the long type, it is 64-bit signed integer and has really big range, and of these ranges you decide what type to use based on the range that you have, let's say, because when you want to declare in your program a variable which will have a really big number, which will have value a really big number, you should use, let's say, the long type. And when you're using it, again, you have the suffix, which is L, and I'm gonna show you. And I will assign a value to that variable to show you how the suffix work and how to use it. So let's say that you have some really big number like that, and bigger, of course, and you should put the suffix that you want to use, the long type. And that's about it. Then we have the ulong, which is 64-bit unsigned integer, has this range which starts from 0 and suffix ul. Then you have the float type, which is like double but has a smaller range, and it is 32-bit single precision floating point type and has suffix f. The double type is 64-bit double precision floating point type and has bigger range than the float type and suffix d. Then we have the decimal, which is 128-bit decimal type for financial and monetary calculations. You use the decimal type when you're working with money. Let's say you are gonna declare a variable of type which will be a price. You should declare it from decimal type. It will be more correct than the double. And you have this range, and also the suffix, which is m. The next type is char, which is for short of character, and it is 16-bit single Unicode character, has any valid character as range. And the char, I think that you understand when to use it, and when you're assigning the value, it should be inside single quotes. The char is just a single character, and that is about it. The bool type, it is 8-bit logical true-false value. When you're using bool, you can only assign value of true and false. The object is base type of all other types, and the string is a sequence of Unicode characters, or is a collection of characters. And at the end, when you're using it, and you're assigning value to a variable of type int, you should use the double quotes here. And when you have numbers, you don't put them inside double or single quotes, because that is a way that you will make them as string or as character. The date time type represents data and time. A date and time has the following range, and it is using the using system. That is what you have to remember. And from all of these types, at this stage, I think that you will use mainly the int type, the long, maybe sometimes, the decimal, float, the double, char, bool, string, and also sometimes the date time. But you should know, you don't need to know exactly this information word by word. You should only remember what the certain type can include. I mean, how bigger can be the value that you assign to that variable when you're using the certain type. Or let's say if you're using string, you should know that you should put that is for text, and you put the text inside double quotes. And you should only have an idea of how the different types are, and what range has, if they have a suffix. And I think that is for the data types and about this lesson.